America, America, later for America. What has America done for me? Nothing, but made me a zombie. I don't know who I am. I try to act like somebody else. No name, no language, no culture. Got our women acting like some Aunt Jemimas, Buells, Sapphires. Got our men acting like Stephen Fetching, Manti Molan, Willie Betts, and some Rochester's. What has America done for me? Nothing, but made me a zombie. Took away my uncle life, gave me some groceries, some dead white man hanging from it, teaching us about Mary had a little lamb. Mary was right, the lamb was right, and what about old Snow White? Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to give her poor dog a bone. I lied. She gave the dog a steak and gave the bones to Negroes. Neck bones, pig feet, ham hocks, chitterlings, guts. Made us gut eaters, whiskey consumers, dope users, Uncle Tom niggas. That's what America done for me. Made me a robot, a Frankenstein, a puppet. What has America done for me? Nothing, but made me a zombie. Integration, segregation, dehumanization, demasculation, frustration, and complete annihilation. If you are seeking a just education, we are taught to hate ourselves, that everything white is right. We are taught to hate ourselves. Everything we learn is right. Jack and Jill is right. Dick and Jane is right. Little Bo Peep is right. Little Jack Horner is right. Little Red Riding Hood is right. History is right. Civics is right. Math is right. Spelling is right. Social studies is right. Santa Claus is right. And he coming down from a black chimney. Shut up! No wonder black people hate themselves. America, America, why did you bring us here? America, America, why did you bring us here?
Unlawful arrests. Criminal activity by law enforcement. Racism. White supremacy. Media. White interracial spouses. Well, white spouses and interracial couples who are silent. White people who are silent, period. People who include other races. Black people who act like it doesn't affect them. People scared to speak in public because of friendships they have, but have a lot to say behind closed doors. Impersonators for clout. Misleading and dividing instead of teaching. Okay, so the unlawful arrests, the police brutality, things like that. I feel like as children, I mean, in the black culture, you kind of get frowned upon for wanting to be a police officer. Like, they don't want you snitching. Like, you learn that early. So it's almost programmed in black children not to be police officers. You know what I'm saying? Like, F the police. That's all you hear. And I hear, like, a lot of people saying that a solution to police brutality could be more black police officers getting in the force, when I don't even think that's true, because a lot of black police officers have abused black people as well. They're out there with their white counterparts. They know, they you know, a lot of times they will send the most racist white cop with the black cop because they want it to look balanced in the situation where they know that the suspect is going to be probably killed or defeated or beat the shit out of. They send a mix of them out there to make it look like is even, with the intentions of, yeah, murdering that black person or doing bad bodily harm to them. So I don't even think having more black faces in a task in a force is going to do anything, because the system of it is corrupt. The laws in it is corrupt. Those are that is the foundation of these different industries. So the laws have to be rewritten. The way things are have to be rewritten, not just new employees. Because guess what? New faces, same crap, okay? So you got to get to the root of the solution. That's how we fight. And how have people been, what have people been doing? Rioting, voting, looting, peaceful protests, begging and pleading. People in the past rioted, looted, boycotted. That's one thing that those people did back then that we don't do now. Now, the boycotting back then was a little, it was like, okay, one thing about black people that I've learned is they always keep on wanting to be a part of or wanting to be connected to white people when the oppressor. In order to get what you want, in order to get your respect, you have to fully separate and let somebody see your value before you want to be a part of them. These are the people. I don't know how the masses caught this mentality of pleading with someone to be your friend or to like you or whatever, but that's not how it went on the playground. Not in my days. Not where I was from. It didn't go on the playground like that. If you ain't with me, I ain't with you. You go over there with you, and I'ma stay over here. And I'm not worried about you. A lot of the times, the side over here might be worried about me because it look like I'm popping and I'm having more fun, and y'all boring. But guess what? I'm ready. And that's how it should be. It should be that way. But instead, we too kumbaya-ish. We too wanting to intermingle when we have to handle the problem first. We're never going to handle our own problems if we mixing up. We got to handle our problems. We got to get our strength. We got to learn our culture. We got to, and once we get our mentality and our branding in, the black branding, the black culture, then we can come out and mix, because we know ourselves. As a black culture, I feel we should be. We need to handle our problem, heal ourselves, strengthen ourselves, come back out there. Then we can, we can be friends and stuff with allies, but still be very, very, we can't just be willingly open. We still got to be cautious. You know what I'm saying? The rioting that they had, or the boycotting that they had back then, I feel if they would have had the same strength, but just built their own stuff, because I feel like they didn't even have to boycott. Yeah, they got white restaurants, this, that, and the other, but guess what? Just build your own. Why are you boycotting to sit on to be a part of something when you could just build your own? And you got the means and all that too. We need people that know how to get things moving, how to make things happen. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like once we do that, then we can intermingle with the rest of the world. But nothing is going to change until we kind of do our own thing, until we demand a respect, until we respect ourselves, until we learn our culture again and learn our history again. The begging and pleading, it's only buying them more time for them to come up with the next thing to disrespect us, to hurt us, to put us down, to make us feel inferior, to take from us, to rob from us, to change the history of how things are, to whitewash things. Is only giving them a way more time to do that. I have a disclaimer. Let me see if I can see that. So before I get into this, I just want to give you my honest opinion about life. It's just a bunch of hearsay. The way we are manufactured and groomed to play this part in society. Our parents, they teach us how to be very obedient slaves for whoever it is out there getting all the glory. Instead of us being able to travel and explore the world, you have to be indoctrinated your whole life because it makes you a bigger asset to whoever it is up there. But I feel like I would have been a bigger asset if I spent my life learning how to be human. What do you think? never knowing fear or doubt because it wasn't engraved in my mind. When I think back when I was in elementary school, they didn't have a problem with showing me the movie Roots and Kunta Kinte, and the slaves stood there and let the white man beat them for getting out of line, or painting a clear picture that yellow gals would make better house niggas and darker ones would make more good for the fields early in my middle school days. So I see how everything in every system is set up for us to go through is a different level of weakening and deteriorating for the individual black development. So if you've made it to be a black adult, do a dance from the ancestors, because you've made it through level 10 obstacles, not even knowing since you were born. Today, I want to use my platform to teach and present my solution towards justice, not only for George Floyd, but for black people, period. Now, this brings me to the main issue within the movement, which is causing a division, even in getting justice served, for goodness sake. First of all, when it comes to black justice, that means black men, women, children, and all subcategories that are black. So understand that we are all subjects to have experienced injustice as a group of people, murdered, mistreated, overlooked, racially profiled, targeted, kidnapped, raped, beaten, slaughtered by the hands of racist citizens and police authority. To acknowledge only either the man, woman, child, or any other person in our race individually is selfish and lets me know that you have an agenda to further conquer and divide black unity. You are benefiting off of your own seeking, and that's why as black people we need leaders with a good mind, patience, and time. My race is seeking acceptance, but think about any relationship. How hard would you work for someone you have a crush on to get to like you? Are you going to jump up and down, calling their name and waving every time you see them like a raging child? Or are you going to turn on your charm, look good, do good, and get noticed? We have to be rewired to look at these people and not as saviors or gods. If you change your thinking and the way we see them, we will be more confident in doing our own thing without the waving in their faces, trying to get them to see what you're doing and pat you on your head. I've seen groups like LGBTQ community rise and conquer their way into the world, and we make up part of that group. So what can we do to get the same results? So I feel like some of the solutions should be, we should want the change. I mean, I see a lot of people out there, they marching, they got the signs up, they making posts on Instagram, posts on Facebook, they making videos talking about it, but a lot of other people out there still killing, murdering, kidnapping black people. A lot of other black people are doing that. A lot of other black people are out there killing themselves. Some of the solutions: we should want to change, be willing to change, we need to get organized, we need to elect leaders, the leaders need to have their support system, we need to make and accomplish goals, form allies with each other, take the right kind of action every time we experience injustice. We need to stay consistent, establish real black culture, and build systems, school systems, pharmacies, banks, stuff like that. Many of us have not been taught how to start businesses, so that is where our allies and partnerships, leaders and teachers come in. I have an idea that I think could help get things off of the road, okay, to a good start. It's simple, but it'll help us to stay connected. If you pay attention to my approach, I didn't give my energy or thoughts to the white racist supremacist community. I gave my energy towards identifying the problem and discussing solutions. Well, I didn't give much of my thoughts, much about them. Think about having an addict or alcoholic, murderer, thief, rapist, etc. in your family. Would you go and plead with them and beg them to change and constantly remind them of the damage that they are doing? Or what about even a cheating spouse? Would you go and plead with them and beg them to change and constantly remind them of the damage they are doing? When someone has underlying issues, especially generational problems, a regular human can't fix that. They need holistic practice and divine intervention. This is a fight we have to learn to fight. And if we stay focused, undistracted, and constantly working on our goal instead of trying to fix our infamous bully, then I believe we can rise as a people. Do not look at Black Wall Street as our futures, false hope, because even then, we were trying to be accepted by allowing racist white people in our neighborhoods. Now we have social media, but we have to build, heal, and strengthen our mindsets to have the fight of our ancestors so we can finally see our heaven on earth like all other races. That watching this video about social injustice, that we will be able to repair ourselves and respect ourselves more and love on ourselves more and love on our our loved ones, love on our, just the next Black person, period. Just love on them 100% and be there and support them, and we grow and we start to create this black wall of love, invisible wall of energy, of respect for one another, of support, and it allows other people to know that, hey, the same things that we stood for before, we're starting to remember. Now, let me go ahead and do part. So, introduction. Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. The late song stylist Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell recorded a song entitled Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing, Baby. These lyrics not only romantically express the feelings of the popular culture at the time, but other aspects of the Black experiences as well. For African people, we're still struggling to gain some sense of reality in the midst of the filibustering white supremacist controlled society. So it is, even now, especially in the study of world history, which has been so grossly distorted by the white man's declaration of Black inferiority. However, fortunately for us, the subject of history, which is a vital component of a people's self-concept, has in recent years begun to be put back into proper perspective thanks to the heroic efforts of African-centered scholars. As this rediscovery process touches the lives of ever-increasing numbers of our people, it becomes clearly evident there ain't nothing like the real thing. One of the major psychological problems facing the race today is the distorted view of reality. And if one's reality is distorted by his or her lack of understanding of the world and environment he or she lives in, it causes distorted experiences in his or her daily life. Many manifested in violence towards one's immediate family and community. Most behavioral patterns stem from self-concepts, and a very important element of a self-concept is historical identity. If one seeks to historically identify with that which is other than the group which produced and nurtured them, then conflicting cross signals are set up in the psyche, often resulting in illogical reasoning and irrational behavior. If one out of ignorance and endeavors to dismay the importance of the race which gave him or her life in world history, then he or she would be in essence denouncing his or her own self-worth which can sometimes lead to almost without consciousness becoming an instrument of unseeming and violent acts perpetuated against his own kind. The African Genesis series is an offering of rediscovery of our true historical reality and endeavors to aid our readers in answering any questions as how did the universe, our solar system, and the planet Earth come into being? Who were the first humans on planet Earth and how did they get here? These are just a few of the questions that human beings have asked and sought to answer. Throughout the ages of man's existence and development, in all of humanity's quest for knowledge, these questions always seem to be somewhere at the top of the list. In the last 400 years or so, many misleading ideas have been propagated about the world's beginnings and the establishment of its first civilizations. Yet, recent rediscoveries and the careful examination of exact data reveals that contrary to what many of us have been erroneously taught, civilization did not begin in so-called Middle East or on Greek Isles, but rather in the heart of Lebanon, Africa. For whatever the reason, the forces of nature saw fit to create the black race first and to endow them with the wonderful gifts of the arts and sciences of civilization. Whether by the logical progression of natural selection or by the divine fiat of supreme cosmic deity or by an harmonious synthesis of both evolution and creationism, one thing is for certain, in the beginning was the black race. The intent of this series is not to contend pro or con the theories of evolution or creationism, but rather to present both concepts for the reader's examination and to re-emphasize the undeniable fact that both theories testify to the preeminence of the African. Though the various scholarly viewpoints differ in approach and particulars, the underlying and connecting principle remained the same. Black people were here first. The African genesis of humanity is beyond any rational debate. Dr. John G. Jackson puts it even more succulently. The African genesis of the human race is now generally accepted in the realm of modern science as a fact beyond all dispute. Therefore, in the beginning was the black man is a reality that cannot be denied. Though all the geological periods of planet Earth's development, Mother Lebanon was being specifically formed and extravagantly enriched with basic sources of material wealth, gold, diamonds, manganese, chrome, etc. Because it was here, and here alone, that the first humans will evolve and create marvelous civilizations, which became the matrix for all others. It was the Africans who first tamed the jungles and swamps, teamed with the venomous reptiles and lethal insects, who subdued the deserts and established civilizations where once there was wilderness. This was not achieved anywhere else on earth before it was accomplished in Lebanon, Africa. There is a wealth of information which traces the footsteps of these early inhabitants of the earth from the most basic lifestyles of immediate survival to the evolution of great kingdoms and magnificent civilizations which the original black man and woman built and maintained over the world. Dr. Chancellor Williams boldly affirms, the greatest of all issues is right here in the general agreement that at the very earliest period known to mankind in African civilization, in the areas later called the Sudan and Egypt, was fully developed with all the arts of civilized life already mature. Its beginning being placed so far into early history of the world that it is beyond the reach of man. The reason why this information is not common knowledge to the masses of black people is because we are at war. The enemies of the world have been and still are concealed much of the rich, priceless treasures of our true history in an effort to keep us in a perpetual state of mental, spiritual, and economic enslavement. Dr. John Henrik Clarke reminds us, it is too often forgotten when the Europeans emerged and began to extend themselves into the broader world of Asia and Africa during the 15th and 16th centuries. They went on to colonize most of mankind. Later, they would colonize world scholarship, mainly the writing of history. History was then written or rewritten to show or imply that Europeans were the only creators of what could be called a civilization. In order to accomplish this, the Europeans had to forget or pretend to forget all they previously knew about Africa. Dr. Maulana Karenga reinforces this reality. In fact, Europe declared that the more history you have, the more human you are, and then set out to claim all relevant history and deny blacks any. It is fundamental fact that only humans have history, and when Europe could claim without effective challenge during the slavery and the colonization of African peoples and lands that blacks had no history, they could and did also claim blacks were not human. For to be denied historical achievement is to be placed outside of humanity, for only humanity makes history. The need then became one of rescuing and reconstructing black history as a basis for and contribution to the rescue and reconstruction of black humanity. To feed this ferocious dragon of white supremacy, the European world has motivated its captains of industry, moguls in the financial arena, and the shakers and movers of other segments of their society to funnel many millions of dollars into those areas of study and research which could be interpreted in such a way as to buttress their inflated self-concept, archaeology, anthropology, linguistics, and other related fields. Because these disciplines give definition and cultural context to everything else in the world, European scholars set out to dominate these fields and recast their findings in the image of white supremacy. However, the historical reality of the black race's original place in the ancient world managed to survive through every effort to smother it in a variety of confusion. Among the ranks of Eurocentric thinkers, the prevailing racist theories of history creating a very real dilemma. How, in view of civilization's beginning in the land of the blacks, to explain their role in the world? Having successfully degraded the black race throughout the world and supported that degradation with their science and religion, how now explain that this same black race was the first builders of the very civilization of which the Caucasians themselves are heirs? Most of white academia responded to this dilemma in the usual stiff-necked, irrational manner. They simply denied the compelling evidence of all these ancient African high-culture civilizations by claiming them as their own. Therefore, as Dr. Carter G. Woodson so clearly points out in his book, The Miseducation of the Negro, the large majority of African people educated in the Western world have only been taught about what other races, Europeans in particular, have done, and that the only way we can ever be somebody is to imitate them instead of imitating ourselves, thus denying the reality of our own existence. Dr. Shekai Anta Diop says, this climate of alienation finally deeply affected the personality of the Negro, especially the educated black who had had an opportunity to become conscious of world opinion about him and his people. It often happened that the Negro intellectual loses confidence in his own possibilities and in those of his race to such an extent that, despite the validity of the evidence presented, it will not be astonishing if some of us are still unable to believe that blacks really played the earliest civilizing role in the world. When a people are robbed of the vital, life-giving knowledge of their own true history, they become lost and stray from the path of their own high calling and holy purpose of their unique existence. For the spark that gives life and meaning and purpose has been hidden from them. Consequently, the attitude of many of today's unenlightened black youth towards our history is, who cares about what happened back then? That was the past and this is now. Surely only a people suffering from an acute memory loss could produce children who would deny their own historical relevance. Dr. Asa G. Hillard III observes, an individual that loses his or her memory is disabled. So it is with a people. African and African diasporan people have in large measure been deprived of the most important memories of history. Those who have enslaved and colonized Africans have understood fully the powerful role that history plays in the life of a people. As a result of being robbed of a knowledge of self, all too many black people are acting out of the context of their true natures. Some scramble their brains by incessantly listening to party music all day long, and many of our youth often show outright disrespect to their elders or anyone else in the community without regard or consideration for the demoralizing effects of such actions. There is even in some black communities an epidemic of child molestation. Now you know it is absolute insanity for individuals to traumatize future generations of their own people. Surely it is not the true nature of the African soul. If anything, it is more indicative of European historical characteristics. Mind you, I am not stating this to be mean. In fact, white scholars such as Will Durant and others write about it in their own books. See African People and European Holidays, A Mental Genocide, Book 2. Some black people or some black children have been led to believe that being studious in school, is not soulful. Some think of it as being Whitey's thing and tend to intimidate or ostracize those students who are striving for excellence. It is not my objective here to wring my hands and bemoan the negative aspects of the present state of the race, but rather to demonstrate some of the deleterious effects these negative thoughts and actions have on the race, especially those of our people who have accepted what Reverend Jaramogi Ayedmin refers to as the white man's declaration of black inferiority. African-centered educator Abina Walker admonishes that one of the ways that we can treat and remedy this pathology is to study our history and culture first, then often peoples and cultures in relationship to who we are. Dr. Yosef Ben Jokanan offers a similar prognosis. In order to make African studies and black studies truly relevant, I'm very strongly certain African and African American, Caribbean peoples included, educators, historians, and other writers dealing with the black experience and must first attack and ferret out the root cause of the cancer of anti-Africanism, found in such abundance in the existing holdings in libraries, museums, and other literary dispositories of the United States of America, private and public educational institutions. Of course, we are not suggesting that the study of our history is a cure-all for every ill, for we do understand that many of the problems which assault the psyche of the race are far more deep-seated and complex than what meets the eye. That the answers and solutions are by no means simple. Nevertheless, a knowledge of our true history is an essential and logical place to start, because truly a careful scientific investigation of the African and world history based on what Dr. Ivan Van Sertima calls hard evidence reveals there always has been and still is much more to us than the hand-clapping, butt-shaking, ball-chasing, slap-happy image the world generally holds of us. Now, I want to go to this hand-clapping. It's funny that this is in this book because I was talking to one of my friends who happens to be white. I made some brisket. She shared the brisket. She shared on her wall. Oh, I got brisket from my friend Eastside Mary Jane, and it was so good. And one of her white friends got on there and was like, barbecue sauce on brisket, and she was like, yeah, whatever. And he was like, well, eat your brisket, boo boo, clapping. So I laughed at it at first, but then I thought about it, like, I wonder if it was not a post about me, about a black person cooking brisket, would he have claps? you know, and she was like, so I asked her, like, does he normally joke Blackish, or you know, he's doing that because it was because I was on the post. So she was like, is hand clapping a Blackish thing? Okay, now I feel confirmed to answer that question. After reading this book, it's saying that the hand clapping, like, it's a Blackish thing. Like, I've never seen white people do the boo-boo, the thing. I don't know. I don't see them doing it. It's not on TV. I haven't been in the household unless, you know, it's some new thing. But she showed me evidence that he does the hand clapping thing all the time, so he's with it. I mean, but naturally, that's just not what they do, you know. Anyway, okay, so the rediscovery of our glorious achievements in the past and present supply us with countless examples of African people's innate ability to be rational, practical, logical, deductive in our reasoning, analytical in our thought, and provocative in our creations, and yet still dance, sing, laugh, and play in harmony with the rhythmic energy of timeless cosmic motion. The first mind to question life and find answers was the African mind. It was this mind which created and formed the sound mathematical basis for the tangible accomplishments. It was the soul born of the dark womb of the universe that obtained and maintained an everlasting connection with the umbilical cord of divine intelligence. It was the chosen representative of the human species who continued age after age to generate and regenerate intuitive, clairvoyant, precognitive, psychokinetic inspiration and spiritual oneness with the all and in all. The black race must come to know and never forget that Mother Nature has blessed us with a generous supply of that special chemical ingredient which enabled earthly humans to endure the scorching heat of the primordial electron plains and achieve in varying degrees the divine equilibrium of the harmonious developmental of mental and spiritual and physical being. This magic elixir, which does not deteriorate with time, is known as melanin. Melanin is a chemical which, among others, determines the intensity of skin pigmentation. The term melanin was associated with divinity in the ancient world. Renowned historian Joel A. Rogers says, the Black Aphrodite, later the Black Venus of the Romans, and the Black Madonna of the Christians, was worshipped for her magical powers in ancient Greece. The Black Goddess was also known as Melena, the Black Lady. Melanin, or the black pigment in the human skin, is derived from the name of this goddess, Greek melosenos, black. We will be dealing with this subject again in volume 4 of this series, African Genesis, Black Gods and Goddesses in the Land of Eden. Dr. George G.M. suggests that study of the African in world history is also going to mean a most important change in the mentality of the black people, a change from an inferiority complex. In the mirror of a history, we behold a reflection of ourselves. A black person's degree of consciousness as to his or her true history is directly related to his or her self-image. For the image a person or people hold of themselves is the regulator of all their thoughts and actions. And that is so powerful. Karenga analyzes this principle thusly. The enslavement and oppression of Africans was an appropriation of their labor and thus the effective interruption of their struggle to transform the world in their own image and interest. The appropriation and interruption led to historical amnesia, loss of self-consciousness based on historical practice and achievement. For we know ourselves by what we have done and do, and when our labor is no longer ours and there is no record to reveal our true identity, based on historical origin and practice as a people, how do we define and know ourselves? History then becomes the mirror through which we look to discover and know ourselves and our possibilities. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing says that in most cases, a person who thinks well of his or herself will not submit to or be satisfied with substandard behavior from his or her or others towards him or her. Unless we as people have a positive self-image of who and what we are, no one else will. Those among us who do not possess this essential quality are like autumn leaves at the mercy of the winds, blown about by the public opinions and worldviews of others, which will have you going around doing any and everything, even that which breeds self-destruction. As it is exemplified on a collective level, so it is with the individual. One must acquire and maintain a positive self-image in order to do positive things and produce positive results. This state of mind is the determining factor as to how you will fare in any given situation, no matter what the external circumstances. In short, before you can be good at anything, you must first have a good self-concept. Speaking on how a lack of misunderstanding of their true history tends to impair the self-confidence of the leaders of many African nations today, John Henrik Clarke puts the question in his insightful booklet, Can African People Save Themselves? Why do we import European and other foreigners to build roads, bridges, etc., when we have the technical skills to do it ourselves? Why are we purchasing shoes from Europe and other places when we have more than enough cows to make shoe leather right at home in Africa, which happen to be contributing to the carbon footprint, which is causing the climate control? Truly, the greatest of all treasures is the golden knowledge of self. A serious study of our true history is one of the master keys to unlocking that knowledge. Here are some additional reasons why African-centered scholars and behavioral scientists think that the study of history from an Afrocentric worldview is of such vital importance to advancement of the race. Firstly, history helps us understand why the present world is the way it is. The lessons of history also provide us with clues as to how to change for the better, to better those things which needed to be changed. Without a clear grasp of world history and our rightful place in it, we will not know how to accurately interrupt current events or adequately plan for our survival and victory over adverse circumstances presently or in the future. If one does not have a reasonable understanding of how things came to be, one will not be able to comprehend why circumstances and conditions are the way they are. Not knowing who you really are makes you ignorant of your place in the scheme of life and vulnerable to exploitation. Therefore, however, history can be a power tool in the hands of those of our people who sincerely desire to change things from what they are to what they should be. Dr. Imari A. Obadel makes this observation. Humans are the only species capable of thinking in the past, present, and future tense. As far as we know, only non-human animals are confined to thinking and acting instinctively for the present or limited to preparing for the immediate future, such as squirrels storing their nuts for the winter. Now, if a person cannot get beyond that stage of existence, then one would have to question his or her respective order in the animal kingdom. Wow. Secondly, to transcend the limitations of a purely biological existence, a person or people must have a sense of destiny. For this, they must look to their history. Food, clothing, shelter, and other biological needs should be balanced with the fulfillment of mental and spiritual needs, or as we have already discussed, you will confine yourself to being just another animal. High ideals are one of the few factors that motivate humans to rise above basic biological desire and necessities. Without such ideals, man is merely an evolving beast of the field, regardless as to how sophisticated he may appear to be. These high ideals are usually garnered from the great moments and cultural customs of a people's tradition and history. Therefore, we suggest that a sublime spiritual level of mental evolution can be achieved by many of our people, especially our youth, through the scientific investigation of African history, particularly the ancient high culture civilizations. Ancient history demonstrates with glowing examples the fact that through the ages, black people have been able to skillfully balance the intuitive and inspirational with deductive reasoning and experimentation. This balance gave our African ancestors a special characteristic edge in civilization building. I do truly believe that if we did it then, we can do it now. Therefore, we must reach back deep into our cosmic souls and reconnect with our original divine nature. Thirdly, there are many personal rewards to be gained from reflecting in African antiquity. Ours is a rich and vibrant history, and if we embrace it and observe well its object lessons, it will open up new horizons. One passage of New Testament scripture states in this way: "Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." For many of us, a renewing of our weary and tired minds is a priceless reward unto itself. The stalwart black nationalist freedom fighter Malcolm X once declared, "Of all studies, history is best qualified to reward all research." And so it is, for knowing our true history can provide you with a personal sense of our unique and special revolution in the world. It can motivate you to rediscover your innate ability to think large dimensions. Finally, we should study our true history, if for no other reason than, as Manning Marble says, we cannot wipe out the impact and effects of the past. Relative to our collective history, to attempt to do so would be spiritual and mental suicide. For a person or people without a memory or history is in a pitiful and relatively helpless state, as many of us were in the past, until we begin to come into what Messenger Muhammad coined as a knowledge of self and kind. Therefore, all praises are due to every teacher and scholar who has ever come into our midst while we were gripped in the vise of white supremacy and endeavored to bring us into the brilliant light of our true being. Of this sacred trust, Drusilla Dungy Houston wrote, from the oft-repeated expression found by the author in research work that with the ancients said about the Ethiopians, Africans was fabulous. Curiosity was aroused to go back over the story of the ancients to agree or draw new conclusions. The finds were so astonishing that the vow was made to spend upon the study many years if necessary. Like the quest of the Holy Grail, the aim became sacred, for the trail led backward into the heart of all that the world holds most of the precious, and to the primal roots from which all culture sprang. One of the main purposes of the writing of this series is to assist our readers in making the connection between those things one had seen and heard from the many streams of the everyday black experience and the documented evidence of the greatness of African people and their civilizations in the world. That is why we do our best to present factual data in juxtaposition to those elements most familiar to our readers. It is in keeping with our commitment to the continuing policy of Fourth Dynasty Publishing Company to add something new and unique to the body of literature and informational materials known as the science of Africanology. That is the study of things African, and to participate in the great and exciting period of rediscovery being conducted by African-centered scholars in the present, and to help translate this marvelous brain trust into the language and style of the popular culture, that we do this. It is our sincere hope that this knowledge may become the property of the masses and be regarded as a national and Pan-African treasure, beneficial to and enjoyed by all of our people. We at Fourth Dynasty Publishing Company do truly believe that the potent knowledge of our glorious history should be collectively owned by our people and rewritten upon their hearts for unending generations to come. For it is written in one of the world's most ancient African history books, "After those days, said the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people." In keeping with this divine mandate, our daily prayer is that more and more African people from every walk of life, wherever we are in the world today, will continue to organize and institute study groups, and from these satellite bases establish research centers, community libraries, museums, and even African-centered institutions of higher learning. Fortunately, you do not have to start out big to do this. All that is needed is a few sincere, committed brothers and sisters who will truly join forces on a consistent basis, pool their resources, obtain a space, even if it is no more than a storefront, and build from there. You may be amazed at how far you can go with this once you set your mind to it. In fact, there are already many such efforts in progress in many African communities. Most of them will be more than happy to network with you. Lord knows we certainly have an enlightened army of scholars and brain trusts to provide information and guidance for these endeavors. Again, I would remind you that Black people from all walks of life can participate in this process. What a glorious undertaking. What a marvelous vitality and positive stimulus that would or will bring to our community. For once the Black race begins to obtain a sufficient and proficient knowledge of self, it will be just a matter of time before many of us will be about the business of collectively transforming our communities and moving our race further along the high road of our rightful place in the sun. Helping to keep this idea alive and encouraging its fruition is the sacred goal and mission of Fourth Dynasty Publishing Community as we strive to attain victory in concert with other Africans of like mind and spirit. And that was the intro. So, best buds, what did you think? Some of that stuff was mind-blowing to me. Like, that is the reason why I had to make this video, because I'm like, okay, I wrote my piece like a month ago, and some of the stuff and the way I was thinking is exactly what I was reading, like the way they was saying things should be. Like, what? I want to roll though. I feel like this confirmed a lot of things. So I feel like this book, just knowing this little bit of stuff in the introduction, was very like uplifting, and I mean, I want to know some more. So what do you think, guys? Best buds, if you want to know more, I will read this book. We can go chapter by chapter. Of course the videos won't be this long, but because I gave my little piece in the beginning, you know what I'm saying, I had to just back it up with this to let you know, like, my brain may not be a scientific, scholarly brain, but the divination is coming in, it's flowing in. I read my Bible, I read books like this, I read a lot of different things. I just gather information and I look at things, you know, I observe and all of that. I do what I gotta do. So basically, we're hitting you with this. I just slapped y'all with something. Bam! Something that you can rewind. Bam! Something that you can listen to in the tub. Bam! Something you can smoke to, best bud. I hooked you up. I hooked you up something you can ride to in a car. You can exercise to. I mean, this should give you some muscles. Not only in your arm, but in your brain. Okay? It's some light bulbs. Fast to this. Do what you gotta do. Let's bring it in. Let's bring it in. Bring it in, best buds. I love y'all. I really, 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 really do. I want to see us change. I want to see us have our happiness. I want to see us have our respect. I want to see us have more genuine relationships and friendships and family ships. And I want to see the love, the realness, the societies, the culture. I want to see it. I want to see the hairstyles, the black hairstyles, because I'm tired. I should be wearing, my afro puff should be like sparkly glitter. I don't know. Like, y'all should have invented something where you got non-black women out here trying to get some kinky hair, kinky tracks and stuff. Like, we should not be going that way. Like, we too, come on now. Act like you would act with me. Act like if I was black and you was black and I did something to you, how much of a grudge you would have to me. We need to have that grudge towards these non-black people that are racist and white supremacists. And we need to bring it in, fix ourselves up, go into rehab. You know, once we come to rehab, we bring ourselves to the round table. We sit there with all our family, we talk, we fix our circle, then we strengthen up, you know, then we take it to the next level. We just continue to roll with it. Who with me? Who with me? I should have a bullhorn. Who with me? Alright, best buds. Now, if you are non-black and you're watching this video, do not feel bad. I don't know. I can't tell you how to feel. Don't be mad at me. That's what I can say. Don't be mad at me because you feel like, I don't know. You gotta be mad at, y'all gotta go to your table and do the same thing within your little group. You know, and that's not my place to even say. But I just feel like I'm going to have some backlash or some people mad at me for doing this, and I really tried to not even address them, because in order for, it's almost like I'm teaching my kids how to kick a bully's ass at this point. So I'm not addressing you. I don't need to address you. I'm teaching my kids how to kick your ass, how to defend themselves. You know what I'm saying? You the bully. You don't worry. Don't be mad. And I'm not saying all white people, okay? I shouldn't even have to say this, but I do, because you will have some people that feel like, oh my God, this is me. No, but I am teaching my best buds how I'm bringing it in with them. We over here. It has nothing to do with you. I'm not putting you down. I ain't talking about you. And if you ain't white supremacist or racist in the first place, you really shouldn't feel bad about me teaching my family something. You know what I'm saying? And I have black best buds and I have white best buds, but this one is just not for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you want to take this knowledge that I'm sharing with the rest of my best buds, then so be it. You take the knowledge, and I hope you do something positive with it. I hope that you can, you know, accept it and be like, damn, this what's going on, and really see that when we turn down things outside, our sweat is put into that. You know what I'm saying? Our sweat is put into that. And maybe that's the reason why we innately go to tear it down. Like, we don't remember anything, but the actions of the majority of people is like going out there and tearing it down. Some things is just encoded in a person. So I feel like we get little triggers. We start to remember these things. That was a trigger. We tore it down. You know what I'm saying? Not the best solution to me, but who knows what the meaning behind that is. It's a spiritual thing. It's not just a physical flesh thing. It's spiritual. It's, you know, and we are all houses of spirits and souls that carry out actions here on this earth. So if I'm just saying, black people, black family, black best buds, chocolate covered best buds, I'm just saying, let's get it together. I love you. I want us to do good. I mean, you know, like, Yo, I just said here, Mother Goose, y'all. I just now read y'all a book. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed talking to y'all. I mean, we going into 2 hours. I'm still not finished. So y'all know how I can be. I'm not going to do that tonight. I got something to smoke on, okay? I love y'all. I really do. And like I said, girl, when I saw my first comment, I twerked. I was like, she got it. I had 2 comments on one video, y'all. Oh my God. I was so happy. So keep them coming. Keep them coming. Share the video. Like, subscribe. Don't forget to do that. Baby girl, baby boy, best buds. I love y'all. And there'll be more to come, okay? So let me go ahead and sign off, and I will see you in the next video. And don't forget to leave below in the comments if you want me to go ahead and we can finish this book out together, because I don't think y'all gonna be going to the library, getting a book, blah 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 blah. You know good and well, and this is old and crusty, so let me read it to you. Just let me know. Comment, let me know. Likes will tell me if you like it too. Yeah, that'll let me know you want me to read this, because this is really interesting. I want to give you some light. All right, let me go. Let me just go. Y'all always do this to me where I can't just leave. Damn.